Once we return to Geosync orbit, we get to moderate a staff meeting. Yay. The short summary is that we're basically broke, well, with all the debt and the loans for the dropship, mechs, supplies, jump ship fees. The big issue is that while we owe the loan sharks, the jump ships won't allow us to leave the sector. So we need to find work around a star system of this place, and the nearby systems of Alloway, Bellerophon, and Detroit. I'm sure there's a Robocop joke I can make here. So now that we're here, let's talk about the strategic layer. Specifically, your dropship, which is a Leopard class light dropship. It's the perfect ride for any force that can only deploy single lands for reasons, and doesn't mind burning money keeping it flying. Few things to cover real quick. Now first and most important, Captain's Quarters. Here you can check where your month's finances are going, your reputation with the various factions, and the company customizer, where you can swap out your emblem, color scheme, and name. Now honestly, given what this game is, and what I'm hoping is coming in HPS's future, only one real choice. Crimson Skies is now canon BattleTech. I mean, jump ships are practically sci-fi space zeppelins anyway. Next, we have navigation, where we can choose our travel destination, which no point doing so yet as our options all suck.
Hello, Commander. Good to see you.
And we can talk to Samir, our dropship pilot.
How can I help, Commander?
She's a naturalized Taurian with a fighter jock attitude and a hatred for birds. Note that you can talk to the crew, and if you do it at certain plot events, they'll throw in some extra info and backstory. I'll be transcribing all of these into the thread if you want to spend some time reading. Jumping to the top of the menu, we have the Leopard option, where you can begin an already accepted contract, more on that later, and where we can hire pilots and buy or sell hardware from the local market. Now outside of rare gear, chances are you'll be selling more often than buying. Living off salvage is a perfectly cromulent business model. Also note that there are pilots who will be considered too high grade for you. As you take and complete contracts, the Merc Review Board will improve your score and rep, so these elite pilots will be less likely to turn you down. Now below that is the Command Center, which is where Darius keeps tabs on available jobs. And yes, you can chat with him as well. His background is as a runaway from a life of menial labor, who earned his way to become the XO of a Merc company. He is the one who keeps things running with a constant flow of C-bills. Or, sadly, with the jobs available, a trickle of C-bills, as you can see from the plethora of contracts we have available. Now we'll be returning here in a bit. Next, we have the Barracks. This is where you can check on your mech warriors and assign XP to skills. System is pretty simple. A pilot gets XP for surviving a mission. You use this XP to bump up a skill from 1 to 10. XP cost increases as you go, so getting a 10 skill pilot will take a while. Each bump gives a slight boost. Gunnery adds a bonus to your hit chance, piloting improves melee hit chance, increases the threshold to become unsteady, and lets you generate extra evasion pips for moving faster. Guts provides additional pilot health, reduces the recoil penalty for shooting autocannons, which I haven't mentioned yet as it's not really come up, and increases the overheat threshold. Also, a pilot running out of health or having the cockpit be destroyed has a chance to be incapacitated, not dead. This is determined by the gut skill, so a higher one gives a slightly better chance of them surviving an otherwise mortal wound. Finally, tactics improves indirect fire accuracy, reduces some weapons' minimum range, such as LRMs and AC2s as we saw, and gives an extra bonus to cold shots, going from slightly improved to you will almost always hit the section you target. When you start out, it's often good to skill up all of them to level 4, as it's pretty cheap and they're all useful at that level. After that, you want to start to specialize. Partially because the cost increases, but mostly because of the abilities you see at level 5 and 8. You can have 2 abilities at level 5, and then 1 at level 8, but only on the same line as the level 5 skills you have taken. So if you get multi-target and sensor lock, you can either take Breaching Shot or Master Tactician, not Ace Pilot or Juggernaut. Quick aside, this is patched to pre-Flashpoint DLC. These are the old skills, so I can show you how broken some of them are, especially Bulwark and Juggernaut. One is OP as all hell, one is decent or utter trash, depending on the situation. Anyway, XP spending. I give Duncan points in gunnery, piloting, and guts. The last one doesn't actually add anything at the moment. He gets plot armor and will never die in combat anyway, he just takes a nap for a month. But might as well spend as many points to prep for the next XP payout. Medusa starts with some XP, despite not going on the previous mission, but he at least has enough to get a starting ability with evasive movement. Behemoth gets some tactics, again not enough to give any bonus. Decker also ups his tactics, but to level 5, so he gets sensor lock to become a full-time scout. Finally, Glitch gets some piloting to level out her skills. Again, getting all 4 to level 4 is a decent use of XP at the start.
Mech Warrior training complete.
And finally, we get to talk about the most important element of any BattleTech game, the MechLab.
Anything I can do?
Yang is the guy in charge of the mech bay, and really the entire ship. He's one of the oldest of the crew and spent most of his life fixing broken mechs, first with the Capellan military, then with the Marauders when he realized how many commanders got their ranks through nepotism. He also has a sweet robot arm after an incident involving a beer, a Centurion's rumble seat, and a half-ton of SRMs. He doesn't like to talk about it, and he also keeps well away from anything that involves climbing into a battle mech's cockpit. But that's okay, because he can and will tear apart and put together any mech you bring him.
Talk to you later.
That's stuff you get from salvage, custom weapons, modified armor layouts, good as new repair jobs, warranty void upon purchase, some sweet custom paint jobs. About the only thing you can't do is stuff like, I know, custom bodywork, putting on spoilers, or... Actually, you know what? Never mind. So, fair warning, there will be no MechLab shenanigans just yet. I always run stock for the first few missions, because it takes time and money to do so, and I also don't have the components to really play around with it. Speaking of, any modification repairs will take time, and Yang only works on one mech at a time. So if you go full ham on a mech and it will take a month to rebuild, also consider that you might have to put it on hold a few days, because you DFA'd someone, now your spider's missing a chunk of its leg, or you decided constantly alpha striking in a desert was a good idea, and now Yang has to make sure the mech coolant didn't melt the endosteel beams. That's why, despite the Vind and the Spider only taking 2 days each to repair, the Spider says it will take 4 days. It won't be looked at until after the Vind is bright and shiny. Alright, so that's about it for the strategic layer. At least for now, this is really just the beginning. There's a fair bit more that will start to crop up once the plot properly gets rolling. For right now, we're back to the contracts. Right, contract, okay. So relevant information. The skulls roughly equate to difficulty. There is quite a bit of variance. One skull could be a lance of medium tanks or light mechs. It could be a lance of medium mechs. Compare it to the payout if you have multiple missions. If there's one that has a bigger payout than the other, then that one is probably going to have more opposition. Darius' intel is not 100% accurate all the time, is the reasoning. On the right you have the travel time to relocate to the planet where the contract is, and also if the employer will spring for the jump ship costs. If you want to travel somewhere, best to take a contract to get you there. Otherwise, if you go through the navigation section, you can choose your destination, but you have to pay your own way. Now below the destination is the contract details. This one is a battle, which is just a straight up brawl against whatever's on the ground. The environment is desert, which means a lack of water, less heatsink efficiency, probably rocky terrain. When you have a contract you have chosen, or have chosen for you, to take, negotiate lets you haggle how you get paid, either in C-bills or in salvage. In the vanilla option BattleTech, which is what I'm running, you want salvage, as you can grab more mech parts which can always be sold for a decent chunk of dosh. The numbers determine priority salvage, which are the bits you select post-mission, and total salvage, which means in this case we'll get to pick 2 pieces and 6 more will randomly be given to us. Now you can also lowball your pay, which will earn you additional faction rep.
Roger that, Commander.
This doesn't apply to
False
independents
fire.
because it would only apply to one planet and that would be useless. Travel is dependent on 2 factors, the distance from planet to jump point and vice versa, which in this case is only a few days, and jump travel, which takes a few days to charge up, and then if you're doing multiple jumps, requires a week to recharge between each jump.
Job's done, Commander.
Now this is often the best time to do repairs and mech modding, since they're not going to be doing anything for that time anyway. Once we're in system, off we fly to the planet, and right into an event. Events will pop up quite often, and they can be a boon or a hindrance. In this case, we're getting gouged by our brokers, and it's gotten bad enough that we really need to address it. Or not, I mean that's an option. In this case, I think a bit of financial logic and some fake innocence is the way forward. And hey, it works. we managed to get a reduced interest rate and some franking credits. With that sorted, we reach Bellerophon and prepare our lance. Now another mod I used to use constantly is a drop cost mod. It adds a charge per tonnage. It's a real good simple system to entice you to use lighter mechs for lower risk, lower paying operations. But since this is vanilla, you know what, fuck it, roll out the big guns, or whatever's closest to big. So we're rolling out with the same force as the last mission, for the current mission, in the next video.